Alright guys, in this vehicle specific video we're going to be doing a 2020 Jeep Gladiator, and we're going to be doing 2 fronts on it. So let's jump right into wiping the outsides, and we'll get to the door panel removal and then laying out the bulk material and hand cutting and installing it. So obviously you got to turn the key on, roll the window down. On this vehicle you're going to trick the latch, which I did already. You guys should know how to do that already. If you don't trick the latch, it'll just chime the door the whole entire time. Now for the door panel removal, I highly recommend removing the door panel on this because everything's very tight around the edges, and then you have the bottom gasket that's extremely tight as well. And there's not much room to work with. You can do the opposite of bottom loading, which is leaving the clear release liner on. That's just not the way I do it because I don't want dirt, debris on the side. So let's get into the door panel removal. It's very simple. We have 3 screws. There's Torx tips. There's T30s. There's 2 down here. And then you have 1 behind the handle up here. There's going to be a little notch on the top. You're going to grab your hook tool, pop that piece of plastic off. Then we'll take those 3 Torx screws out. And then we also have 2 on the bottom, which is 2 T15 Torx tips. Then we can go ahead and pull the door panel off. So when I start, I like to grab on the top, get my hand behind the back, not pulling the top completely off, just to get my hand in. And the panels on the Jeeps are extremely tight. Don't be scared to pull. As long as you have all the screws out, it won't cause any damage. And once you have the bottom released, you can go ahead and push up on the bottom and slide it up. Because this part right here goes very deep into the gasket. So that's why you can't pull the top off first, because it's so deep onto the gasket. You got to release the bottom first, and then you pull it up. Then we can go ahead and grab the gasket, pull it up and out. Once you have the gasket out, we can line up these clips. You can see they're very different than normal vehicles. This is a Jeep thing, these style of clips. We're going to put them in the holes on the bottom, line it up, and just click the bottom into place. And we're ready to clean the inside. Now that we have the window completely prepped, the weather strippings removed, we can go ahead and lay out the bulk material and start hand cutting that. So let's do that. On this vehicle, we're going to do 20% SunTech Standard Pro. The back windows do meter at about 22%. So this is going to cause the 2 front doors to be slightly darker than what the back is. But the customer was already advised of this, and they said it's okay. But just know, if you want to match the back on this, you're going to want to do like a 25% or a 35% and make it slightly lighter. So with this car, or this Jeep, what we're going to do is we're going to keep this bottom edge straight. We're not going to cut these curves. So we're going to line it up in the middle with the straight edge of the film. And then slightly mount it in place so it doesn't move. We'll cut the front edge. Then we will slightly round out this bottom edge, so I'm going to take the razor and make a mark where I want to round it out. So when I do my final trimming, I'll just do a continuation of this bend here. The reason I don't cut exactly on the line is because I don't want it to be too close, and there's plenty of room to work with on the inside that we took the gasket out, that we want the film to drop as low as possible. So we got the front edge cut, the bottom edge lined up, and we have it marked where we're going to create that curve. I'm going to release the film and shift it forward slightly. Very slightly. You don't want to shift it too much on this vehicle because the gaskets are very tight the further you go in. So the bottom lined up, cut, shifted forward Let's cut the back and then we can roll it down and cut the top. You remember when we're cutting the back with a radius on the top and the bottom, you're going to want to start above and end below the top radius. Now we can roll this down, just enough to cut the top. It's tricky on this because the window switches are on the center console. So a little trick here, if you're working by yourself, you take the material, fold it up without creasing it, which is a little tricky. And then you can mount it right here. That way when you roll it down, it won't hit. Now the main thing you want to pay attention to when you're rolling the window down like that, I don't know if you heard those noises when I rolled it down, it was like a popping noise. That was the film sticking to the paint and causing the film to pull on the window. Good thing we had it mounted enough so where it didn't shift, but that's a close thing to pay attention. That's a good thing to pay close attention to, because if the film grabs the paint when you're rolling it down, you're going to shift the entire window, and when you cut the top and install it, it's going to be completely off. So just pay close attention to that. Roll this down a little bit more. Alright, so go ahead and cut this top edge. Make sure you have a fresh blade. Remember, you have this radius at the top here that you want to continue very smoothly, and on the back. On this type of window, any type of Jeep Wrangler or the Jeep Gladiator, where you have these radiuses like this, you want to make sure you follow through with them very fluently and don't create any choppiness. If you feel like you got choppiness in your radiuses, you could always go ahead with a fresh blade break and redo the cut on a deeper angle. I tend to go slower on those radiuses just to get better control. And that's much better. So now we can pull this off and do the final trimming. On this bottom edge here, we're going to do a very tight curve continuation with what we rough cut. We don't want to cut too much off, just to make it nice and rounded out based on what we did here. And then with the back bottom edge, we're going to continue that straight. No need to make the curve there because this back edge is curved, but we can make this bottom corner a bigger radius. The front top, we're going to continue the front with the straight edge. The back top, I'm going to continue that straight. And then we'll flip it over and do those final trimmings. The reason I flip it is because I'm right-handed, so I work from left to right. If you're left-handed, you'll flip it the other way. And what I like to do when there's a radius like this on the top back corner, I like to pull the film off, spray it up nice, and just lay it on the outside and make sure it all lines up, lining up all the edges. Having no overhang, and that looks great. So we're going to take that, mount it on the top of the glass, we'll roll the window up a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and install it. So when you are doing the Jeep Gladiator, you're going to want the window up as much as possible, but not too close to that gasket, although it is going to be pretty close, because the higher it is, the easier it is to bottom load, because you have more window to work with rather than trying to shove it all down in the bottom. So I go about, it's like a 1/4 inch opening on the top front edge. We'll go ahead and rinse down the sides and the back and the bottom. Spray squeegee spray. And you can see all the water dripping out of the bottom, not getting into any electronics whatsoever. Bottom loading the front, getting the front top corner in, and then letting the back lay down. And then just slowly working it into place. Once you have it into place, you can roll it down a little bit so you have a better view area of the top edge. Then we can go ahead and mount this in place and continue with installation. See here we have a slight imperfection with the cutting, so things like this you can make it easy correction. Just use a straight edge and your razor, be very careful. Clean that up really nice. Now we can roll it up and finish the installation. Now if you look close, you can see the tint is much lower in the radius areas of the outside gasket. So we have about 1/4 of an inch here as compared to about 1/8 of an inch across the center section. And the same, we didn't continue this radius in the back bottom corner, so we have enough material back there that we'll never have to worry about the film peeling up in these edges. So that's one of the main key points for a long-lasting tint job on this specific vehicle. So now we have the bottom sealed. We'll check over the outside, then we'll go ahead with the reinstallation of the inside weather stripping. Everything looks good to go. We don't have any contamination because we bottom loaded it, so we don't have to worry about any contamination being halfway up the window. And we're ready to reinstall that weather stripping. Just like any other vehicle, put the front end first, push it forward, lay the rest down. Make sure it's evenly on. It may pop up when you go to put it back on because when you took it off, but the door panel will push that back into place and reset it. So let's pop off the bottom like we held it on to hang there. And the main key here is to get this tongue into the groove. We'll call it the tongue and groove. Lay the back in, lay the front in, push it down, and when you push it down, you want to make sure that these clips here are going right into the holes. You want to make sure they're all lined up before you push the panel on, and there's no resistance anywhere. Then you can go ahead and hit those back into place. Then we'll start by putting the T15 Torx tips back in the bottom, followed by the T30s. Now you can see the two that go behind the handle have Loctite on them, and the one that goes behind the actual opening handle does not. So I'll put the ones with the Loctite back in the bottom. You want to put them back in very tight because that's how they were. And then the one behind the handle. Then this plastic piece, it doesn't go on any specific way, just line it up and push it into place. And that is how you tint the two front doors on a 2020 Jeep Gladiator. I'll see you guys in the next video.